You've been staring at that unfinished project for weeks. Maybe it's that book you started writing, the website redesign, or even the simple home repair that somehow expanded into an existential crisis. Something always seems to get in the way. Your phone buzzes. Another deadline looms. The motivation that sparked your beginning has faded like morning mist. I used to accumulate half-finished projects like some people collect coffee mugs. My computer housed dozens of documents with promising first pages. My closet contained materials for hobbies I'd enthusiastically started, then abandoned. Each represented a small failure, a personal disappointment that gnawed at my confidence. What separates people who finish things from those who don't? It's not talent. It's not time. It's not even discipline, though that helps. The difference comes down to something psychologist Viktor Frankl understood deeply: meaning. The projects you abandon aren't usually victims of laziness. They're victims of disconnection. When you lose touch with why something matters to you, finishing becomes a mechanical exercise rather than a meaningful journey. The simple trick to finishing what you start isn't a productivity hack or a time management system. It's psychological. You need to connect or reconnect with your why. When your reason for completing something becomes more powerful than your reasons for avoiding it, progress becomes nearly automatic. Consider what author and entrepreneur James Clear describes in Atomic Habits. He explains that people who maintain habits don't have more willpower. They've simply created systems that make continuing easier than quitting. The same principle applies to finishing projects. Your brain naturally resists difficult tasks and uncertainty. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls this cognitive ease. We prefer what feels familiar and straightforward. Unfinished projects often represent cognitive strain. They demand decisions, invite potential failure, and require sustained attention. I remember working on a personal documentary that stalled for months. Every time I opened the editing software, I felt overwhelmed by choices and worried the final product would disappoint. The project itself hadn't changed, but my relationship to it had. The breakthrough came when I reconnected with my original purpose. I wasn't making it to win awards or impress colleagues. I was creating it to tell a story that mattered to me. That shift changed everything. The work remained challenging, but the meaning outweighed the discomfort. This connects to what ancient Stoics understood about human motivation. Marcus Aurelius didn't advise fighting harder against obstacles. He suggested viewing them differently. When you see finishing your project as aligned with your deepest values, resistance weakens. Here's how to apply this principle. First, identify what completing this project would genuinely mean to you. Not what others might think, not the external rewards, but what personal value it serves. Are you proving something to yourself? Creating something that might help others? Expressing a truth you believe needs sharing? A client once told me he couldn't finish writing his memoir because it probably won't be any good. When we explored his true motivation, creating a record of family stories for his grandchildren, the quality concerns faded. His new perspective made finishing more important than perfection. Second, make your reason visible. Write it down. Keep it where you'll see it when working on your project. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, suggests creating physical reminders of your purpose to maintain focus during challenging mental tasks. Third, reduce the scope if necessary. Sometimes projects remain unfinished because they've grown beyond their original purpose. Ask yourself, what's the simplest version of this that would still fulfill my core reason for doing it? My documentary eventually got finished, but only after I scaled it back to focus on the essential story. The trimmed version better served my purpose than the ambitious one that remained incomplete. Fourth, create accountability through meaning, not shame. Tell someone who understands why this project matters to you, not just someone who'll nag you about deadlines. The unfinished projects that haunt us most aren't usually work assignments with external deadlines. They're personal endeavors that matter to our sense of identity and purpose. The half-written novel, the abandoned creative pursuit, the learning journey interrupted. Ryan Holiday, drawing from Stoic philosophy, suggests confronting the fear that often underlies procrastination. Ask yourself, What am I afraid will happen if I finish this? Sometimes we avoid completion because it means judgment, potential rejection, or the need to begin something new and equally challenging. What makes this approach different from standard productivity advice is its focus on meaning rather than mechanics. You're not trying to trick yourself into working harder. You're reconnecting with the authentic reason this project matters to you. William James, the father of American psychology, observed that the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Often, our unfinished projects represent not just tasks, but expressions of who we are, our values, our interests, our desire to create something meaningful. When the alarm clock rings at 5 a.m. and you're deciding whether to work on your project or go back to sleep, productivity techniques only get you so far. But a deep belief in why your work matters can pull you out of bed even when every fiber of your being resists. The projects that change our lives, and sometimes the world, aren't completed through constant self-discipline alone. They're finished because the person creating them couldn't imagine not bringing them into existence, regardless of the obstacles. The simple trick to finishing what you start isn't simple because it's easy. It's simple because it's fundamental. Connect deeply with why completing this matters to you. When you do, finishing becomes not just possible, but inevitable.